Funny story, I actually wrote a review of the S20 FE, pondered a bit and then tore it up. Then I wrote another review of the S20 FE and ended up throwing that as well. But why? I'm Rohan from TechieTechTech and let's find out why I did what I did. Here we go. All the reviewing and trashing and re-reviewing, that's not because the phone is complicated. In fact, the S20 FE itself is a pretty straightforward device. I did it because of the weird ways Samsung positioned it here in the Indian market. First, I wrote a review when the S20 FE just launched and was well priced for a few days. But then I had to trash it as the more premium Galaxy S20 Plus got a price cut to essentially the same price as the S20 FE, which made the FE a senseless option to even consider. At that point, as I completed my second review, the S20 FE got a massive price cut and is now significantly cheaper. And so here comes a third review. Anyway, I have been using the S20 FE for upwards of a month now and here's my long-term experience using it. Let's talk about the build quality first. It's plastic and frankly, I love it. While there's no question that glass looks and feels more premium, the advantages that come with plastic are pretty awesome as well. You don't have to worry about shattering the back and you don't have to worry about babying the phone. To put things into perspective, I use this phone stress-free without a case, something which I cannot imagine doing with a regular glass-backed phone. But apart from that, this phone does not feel cheap in hand. The glossy aluminum frame provides some heft which actually makes the S20 FE feel quite substantial in hand. The S20 FE is probably the most durable and abuse-friendly flagship you can buy today. Also, while I use the very muted and discreet cloud navy color, the S20 FE comes with a variety of color options, so there is something for everyone. Flipping over to the display, we have a Gorilla Glass 3 covered Super AMOLED panel which has a refresh rate of 120Hz and a resolution of 1080 by 2400. Before we get into the core display quality, I have a few minor complaints. For once, I would have loved it if Samsung used the newer Gorilla Glass 5 since competing phones use that. Another tiny thing which annoys me is this shiny metal ring in the selfie camera cutout. It shines a lot and has been really distracting throughout my usage experience. Again, competing phones have a discreet black punch hole which blends in much better to give a more cleaner look. Talking about the actual display quality, it is actually pretty good. Samsung phones pack great displays and this one is no exception. Apart from the gorgeous larger than life colors and crisp detail, I also love the fact that it is a flat panel. The 120Hz refresh rate also goes a long way in providing a smoother user experience. But there are some rough edges. I faced a few issues, mostly with some ghost touches, which led me to do some googling around. Turns out, a lot of users have been facing a variety of issues with the display on the S20 FE. Samsung even pushed a few software patches to fix it, but it's still not fixed for most users, including myself. I would have really liked this phone better if it were not for these issues because it did get very irritating at times, especially when scrolling or swipe typing. Now that we are done with the display, let's talk about the performance. This is actually very dependent on where you live and which variant you get. Long story short, there is an LTE version of the S20 FE with an Exynos 990 CPU which is good enough for day-to-day usage and some casual gaming but struggles when it comes to serious gaming or any other power-intensive tasks. Then there's the 5G version which has a Snapdragon 865 CPU which means that it breezes through everything that you throw at it. I have the LTE version here since that is the only version sold in India. Now, my usage consists of social media, texting, email, all less intensive tasks and the Exynos was pretty comfortable with this usage pattern. However, when I tried to test some heavy games or even during long multi-person video calls, it did get very hot very fast and started stuttering. Needless to say, if you are a power user, get the 5G version or maybe a competing phone with a Snapdragon 865 CPU like the OnePlus 8. The Galaxy S20 FE recently got the Android 11 One UI 3.0 update and I have to say it really refined the overall software experience. Samsung's Android skin has grown from this irritating, laggy and messy pool of bloatware to a very mature, smooth and unified experience. Animations on One UI are extremely smooth thanks to well-polished software and that 120Hz refresh rate. There are more features than ever here, like floating windows, split screen multitasking, edge panels, and a plethora of customizability options. Samsung still packs their own alternative for basically every Google service on the phone, so there's Samsung Internet for Google Chrome, Bixby for Google Assistant, and even a Galaxy Store for the Play Store. However, I won't necessarily call it bloatware since a lot of our viewers actually prefer using them. All in all, One UI is one of my favorite Android skins, and it is a great option if you're looking for a refined and polished Android experience with a loaded feature set. And now that Samsung has promised 3 full years of software updates for the S20 FE, it just makes the whole package a lot sweeter. Let's talk about the cameras now. The Galaxy S20 FE sports a triple camera setup on the rear and a 32 megapixel front camera. The rear camera setup includes a 12 megapixel primary shooter, an 8 megapixel telephoto, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera module. Samsung Galaxy flagships have been known to deliver excellent performance when it comes to mobile photography, and let's find out how this one performs in real life. As always, we'll talk about the photos first and then move on to the videos. The 12 megapixel primary camera takes amazing pictures both indoors and outdoors. It produces stills with high dynamic range and rich colors that are pleasing to the eye. It is the same primary shooter as that on the Galaxy S20 Plus. The ultra wide angle camera is very wide with a field of view of 123 degrees and delivers well exposed pictures with minimal distortion and low noise. There is also an 8 megapixel telephoto camera which takes 3x zoomed in stills. Thanks to the optical zoom, it produces fairly good pictures with flagship level noise processing and sharpness. The S20 FE delivers well exposed portraits with fairly good subject separation on both people as well as objects. The dynamic range and color rendering of portraits are also above average. Besides, you can also adjust the bokeh after you have taken the pictures. Flipping to the front camera, the 32 megapixel selfie camera takes fairly average selfies. Also, there is no autofocus, but there is a wide mode which actually takes 10 megapixel pictures and a zoomed in mode where it shoots 6.5 megapixel stills by default. You can take 32 megapixel selfies as well, but they are just slightly sharper versions of the 10 megapixel stills. The S20 FE's low light performance is a mixed bag. On one hand, it produces amazing low light shots with respectable dynamic range and low noise with night mode support for all cameras. On the other hand, even after so many software updates, the post-processing times are excruciatingly slow. Moving on to the videos, in terms of resolutions and frame rates, the Galaxy S20 FE can shoot videos in 4K at 60 fps from both the rear and front cameras. The outdoor video quality is actually good with decent dynamic range and color rendering. On the other hand, the indoor video quality is somewhat average with muted colors. Samsung also offers features like manual and portrait video modes, which makes the S20 FE an appealing choice for content creators and video professionals. To conclude, the Galaxy S20 FE offers a flagship level camera experience at a not so flagship price tag. Moreover, the feature-packed camera app and Samsung software update history makes it a very appealing smartphone camera for both casual and professional users. So if you are looking for a reliable smartphone camera which takes good pictures and videos from all 3 cameras in this budget, the S20 FE is definitely the best of the bunch. Moving on to battery life, it's actually pretty average. I get around 4 hours of screen on time on a single charge, which is manageable but not too good and not too bad. It has gotten slightly better after the One UI 3.0 update, but it is still not good enough to be a 2-day or even a 1.5 day phone. Also, if you get the 5G version, you might get slightly better battery life since the Snapdragon 865 is supposed to be more power efficient than the Exynos 990 CPU. Another thing to note here is that while the box includes a 15-watt adapter, the S20 FE can support fast charging up to 25 watt with an adapter sold separately. There's also support for fast wireless charging, which I believe only Samsung offers in this price bracket. I also want to take a moment to talk about the phone call experience because it has been exceptionally good. Both the earpiece and loudspeaker are loud and clear, and like other Samsung phones, it performs brilliantly when it comes to catching a signal and holding on to it. Now, as I conclude this video, I would just like to say that the pricing of a phone is very important. The iPhone SE is a great phone, but if it's just as expensive as say the iPhone 11, it becomes senseless. Similarly, the S20 FE is a great phone, but when Samsung priced it at the same price as the S20 Plus, it became meaningless. However, now at this price, I think the S20 FE is a solid choice for users who want a functional, feature-rich and reliable smartphone. Thank you for watching this video, and if it helped you out, help us back by liking it, sharing it and subscribing to our channel. This has been Rohan from TechieTechTech, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.